Hi friends, and welcome to Mom Babes, where every mom is a babe. And if you're like, Christina, I don't feel like a babe because
I have not looked in the mirror closely enough to find out I have chin hairs,
then this channel is especially for you. I make videos for moms who are creatives, and if you're like, I'm not a creative, that's a lie, because raising a live human being is the most creative thing that there is. I would love it if you guys would subscribe to the channel, come hang out with me, and you can get notified every Thursday when I release a new video if you ding the bell. Thank you so much. So you might have noticed today we're doing a very special episode. I'm super excited to start having my mom friends and mom guests on the show to kind of share their mom life, because you can only hear me talking for so long. So this is my friend Jen.
Hello everyone.
And Jen and I met in a Bible study 6 years ago.
Yes.
So we've known each other for a while. We're still not in that Bible study, but we've stayed in touch over time and just really connected. So I'm so excited to have her here with me today. Yeah. So we'll just start by, Jen's gonna take us through kind of like your everyday mom life, what's going on. Just so you guys know, Jen is super mom. She does a lot. She has double the kids that I have. So whenever I'm stressed out, I'm always like, what would Jen do? Because she juggles so many things. So yeah, just take us through your mom life and everything that's going on.
Yeah, it's really cool to think about everything that's changed over those 6 years. She started knowing me, I think, of just a mom of one, pregnant with my second. And I've gone from knowing her as just married, no kids, to now a mom of two. So it's been really cool. I got married a little bit later, I think like 32, and then we started having kids and had a lot of kids and had them really close together. So
really close together.
Our first three are all 14 months apart, and then almost 2 years later we added our fourth. So those early years seem very much like a blur when I look back at them. I'm very thankful for like Facebook memories that pop up. Be like, oh, that's what we were doing 4 to 5 years ago. Yeah. And how chunky they were when they were babies. But aside from all that, yeah, mom life is busy, and I like to call it beautiful chaos. That's what I feel like my life
I like
is.
that. Beautiful chaos.
Yeah, so I have a 6, 5, 4, and 2-year-old. So this is like a little bit of a new stage.
6, 5, 4, and 2-year-old.
I know, I tried
just to give context.
Tried doing the 6, 5, 4, 3, but we waited a little bit longer to have the second one, or the last one. Yeah. I had 4 and under, so he had not turned 5 yet.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So currently the 2 oldest are in elementary school full day, so that's a nice little break. And then all of them I've put through a co-op preschool where I get to volunteer in the classroom on a rotating basis with other parents alongside the teacher. So the last little one will start that next year, so that'll feel like a different season, having them all in some type of school. And then I find in my life, I feel more mentally healthy when I have things to do, when we are just
clearly
stuck at home on like rainy, long school holidays. This is a 4-day weekend that we're in right now. It doesn't go so well. The kids fight, and if there's nothing to do, they get too much screen time. The house just continually gets destroyed with so many toys getting out and all of that. So I found I do better being busy, and some people look at me and are like, why are you so busy? Why do you like to do so many things? But to me, it makes our life flow better, and I feel like all around it's a happier
So you feel
family.
like the whole, like everybody benefits when you guys are like on a schedule. When you don't have a schedule, you feel the dissonance of that.
Yes. So I do like to keep busy. I like being involved with my kids. I had a teaching background, so I appreciated finding a co-op preschool experience that I could like be there in the classroom for their early years. We did a little bit of homeschool preschool on the side to supplement that, to give us some routine when I had a bunch of tiny little ones at home. And then currently I started...
What did that look like? Because I'm about to do preschool next, so I'm like curious, like how much time was that to like do your own like co-op preschool?
They had either a Tuesday, Thursday program for the younger kids, the 3-year-olds, or a Monday, Wednesday, Friday program for the 4-year-olds. And you're in the classroom about 2 to 3 times a month. So the first year I relied on my mom to drive an hour, and she would come watch the younger kids while I was with the oldest in the classroom for those days. And then we ended up getting an au pair right
Yes.
before the fourth was born.
Which
so
we'll do like we'll revisit that.
Yeah, so that helped having a live-in childcare person there on my working days. And then now we don't have an au pair, and so my husband is with the 2-year-old, well, he works from home most days, so that kind of gives us that flexibility. So we've made it work. I want the last one to have the same experience that my oldest one had. So it's a sacrifice, but we've figured it out. And we'll build very special memories for all of them.
But James also travels quite a bit.
Yes, yep. He's in the military reserves, and so once a month he's out of state, and then a couple other things pull him away for travel too. So that is a big adjustment, because without having the live-in au pair, I've had to, have those weekly calendar check-ins, like, hey, are you going to be home? Can you stay with the 2-year-old? Or, hey, I have this meeting. You're going to have the kids tonight. And so it's been a lot of increased teamwork, but it's been going relatively well. And I don't know. I appreciate when he does bedtime, because he can do it in like a quarter of the time I can. Like, he has it down with all 4 kids. Yeah. So like,
toothbrush, read a book, put the jammies on. Let's go.
Yes. So yeah, we did that co-op preschool, and then we're at a charter school. So I've kind of started getting involved there as like field trip coordinator for kindergarten.
I didn't know that. How fun.
And helping in the classroom when I can.
Do you get to pick the field trips?
Yeah, like alongside the teacher, like they'll say, hey, we're going to learn about animals in March. Can you find a farm to go to? Like things like that. So that's been really sweet, and being able to be on the field trips as a chaperone too. And then aside from that, we were a baseball family, but we decided this spring we were going to have our 2 older boys on 2 different teams. They can't play together with their age gap.
Okay.
And then the daughter, my second born, in softball. So all of a sudden I was like, we don't have the live-in help. So that's something that like I learned, like, that's not the best yes right now for our family. I feel like that would be pulling us a little too
This is
busy.
interesting, because you're like busy,
Yeah.
but you're like, but not baseball.
That was kind of like a little like hiccup. Like, can we handle 3 different practices? Because you don't know what days the coach is gonna pick the practice. You don't even know what team you're signing up for. It's all just assigned to you. Like, how are we gonna navigate fitting that in? 3 different games on a Saturday. Sometimes they land at 2 different parks at the same time. I'm like, and it's hard to commit every Saturday.
It's a lot of Saturdays.
So we did drop that, but we're hoping to continue that up again when we feel like we have the capacity again. So that's pretty much like all we're doing. Besides, we did find a great Tuesday evening Awana group for the kids to go to.
Really? Locally?
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Yeah,
I went to Awanas growing up. Yeah, and I didn't know
not, but it's
there
been
was one in
super
the area.
sweet.
Yay.
Yeah, we found one that fit with our like earlier bedtime slightly better than some of the other ones, like went till 8, and I'm like, by the time we drive home 8:30, that's already an hour past bedtime. So we found one that works, and it's kind of been really sweet because the 2-year-old is not old enough to go yet. So the 3 older kids get dropped off, and my husband and I take the 2-hour break to do like what we consider our date night now with just the 2-year-old, and it's totally like, this is easy with just one kid. And so we don't have the au pair anymore to get to have the luxury of date nights, and so that's kind of what we've done. Like, well, at least it's something, we go get dinner at a local place during that 2-hour break.
But how cool is that? Like, those are the types of things that I'm looking forward to as a mom, is like all the kids go and you have one drop off instead of, like you said, multiple locations, multiple practices. Like, that's so great, like for moms that have a lot of kids that are close in age but not close enough to be on the same team. Like, in that little range, like finding things like that they can all go to, I think is like key.
Yeah.
And do you feel like they're like devastated because they're not playing baseball right now?
No. I mean, maybe they'll eventually notice, but they can hop back in. You know, they're still so little. They're not at like a level where they're like skilled and gonna fall behind. Yeah. So I have had to like start thinking through like, well, with 4 kids, maybe they're each just gonna have to pick one thing that they want to do, because then that's 4 things. If they're all 4 different things, 4 different days, so you have to start, picking and choosing what your capacity is in that certain season. So, we stay busy, but try not to be too busy, I guess.
Jen, we said we were going to talk about her au pair experience. So go ahead and tell us just kind of what it is for anybody that doesn't know, and just how your experience was.
Okay, so we were expecting our 4th child, and at that moment we had 2 kids that were going through the co-op preschool. So one was Tuesday, Thursday, one was Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It was going to be double the classroom time, all of that. So my husband and I were like, well, how are we going to make that work? And we had friends at church who were also had 4 kids, and they had had an au pair for like 5 years, well, 5 different au pairs, and talked to us about it. And we're like, oh, like, let's look into what that means. It turns out it's live-in childcare from young adults from other countries, and they come here on like a 1-year contract with the option to extend for a 2nd year.
And they have to be from another country.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Well, like Americans could go be an au pair in another country, you know, but this is just foreigners coming here. And so we, you know, went through the interview process. I joked with my husband, it felt like online dating. You're looking at these young ladies' profiles, and my husband and I met online dating. So it was kind of a funny experience. You're watching their videos and all of that. We found a great match. She was from Slovakia, which is an Eastern European country, and this was during COVID, so there were travel bans and all kinds of stuff. But we were able to do a medical exception for one of our children and get her here. So that was great. I think she arrived like 1 week before I went to the hospital to give birth. So it was probably a whirlwind experience for her, committing to a family with 4 young children. But it was great. It was kind of like a mother's helper role that year, and allowed me to still do my classroom time with my preschoolers.
They have like you had to have separate living space for them and stuff like that.
Yes.
Like, what was...
Yeah, the requirements are they need their own private bedroom, and they can have a shared bath in the house, but they need their private bedroom. So luckily where we live, most of these houses are pretty huge here, so it's not, you know, as hard if you lived in some, you know, small LA apartment or something. So we had the space, and it turned out to be a super great fit. So she was with us a year. She loved to travel, so we knew she wanted her extension 2nd year to be on the East Coast, so she found her next family, and then we got to search for our next au pair. We decided to do it for 1 more year, and we got an au pair who was already in the country. She was with a Seattle family her 1st year, looking to come to California for her 2nd year. So she was from Germany, and she was also fantastic. And right before we started our contract with her, I got hired with the agency. So I got to be the local community counselor here, supporting other host families and their au pairs through their match for the year. And so that kind of gave me some side income to help afford having the help, having a live-in au pair.
Because like she was able to like step in, like gave you time to do like more of like, you know, the, you know, co-op preschool and the work stuff and whatever else you wanted to do, which is nice too. Yeah. What are, remind me what their hours are, like how their schedule is when they're living.
So it's a federal program, so they can work up to 45 hours a week.
Okay.
Not more than 10 hours a day. They need like 1 weekend off a month. There's certain regulations, but
so it's like a 9 to 5.
Great. Yeah, and it can be flexible. Like one of our au pairs kind of did split shift, like helped me in the morning from like 7 to 9, and then she'd come back when all 4 kids were home, you know, after school hours, stuff like that, to help with evening meetings and things like that. So you can just kind of like use those hours as you want, you know. That's
awesome. Yeah. So this may be like a good thing to look into. They're pretty much everywhere. In the U.S. at least, this program, like if you're really feeling like we have a lot and I just need a little help, or like a lot of help, it might be like a good thing.
It's a cultural exchange program, so these young childcare providers become part of your family. Like they're there. Like my kids still talk about them. I hope in the future we're able to go do trips to Slovakia and Germany.
That would
you know,
be
so
awesome.
It's like, it's different than just having a straight employee or a nanny. Like they just become like, you know, the big sister of the family. And it can be a really neat experience.
Yeah, fun.
And I've kind of always done something alongside my motherhood.
Yeah.
So I wanted to touch on that too. I think that's also something that's helped my mental state. I got married, we got pregnant pretty quickly, and then when I moved to Temecula area, I started a stroller fitness franchise. I was into fitness, and I thought it was like a great fit, and then I didn't know I was pregnant with my 2nd when I bought into the franchise, and I was like, okay, like, so I taught fitness classes until I was 42 weeks pregnant. My daughter did not want to get evacuated from the womb.
You didn't stop at like 39 or 40. That's
no, because I didn't. It was
How
a
are
new
you
business.
teaching? Like,
I just modified. It was a new
my
business. I
gosh.
didn't have like the finances to hire an instructor, things like that. I took a 2-week break, and then I was back to teaching fitness classes at the park. I look back at certain times in my life and I'm like, how did you do it? But like new mom hormones, I don't know. You do become like a super mom. So I had to get like both kids out of the house and to a park 3 days a week at 9:30 to meet these other moms that had signed up, you know, for their membership. And then boom, 5 months later, I was pregnant with our third. And so at that point, I was like, I cannot teach these stroller fitness classes with a triple stroller. I don't want to buy a triple stroller. How are my kids going to be quiet for 1 hour while I'm teaching these other moms and helping their kids enjoy their time in the stroller and all that stuff? So I ended up getting out of that contract for that franchise and decided to use my teaching degree as for elementary school teaching to tutor kids online. And that was also a crazy time.
Like,
this
you
is
guys.
like when we were in life group together.
You guys. Yeah. So Jen was like up at odd hours. Like she'd go to Bible study and be like, oh yeah, I have to teach tonight. And we're like, you leave here at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
what is
but it
going
worked
on?
well. So I've always tried to find these like side jobs that work around my children's schedule that don't really take away my time from
The kids.
But can still give me something to like focus energy on, have some type of identity outside of motherhood, like things that helped me feel more mentally
Like
healthy.
having your own space.
Yeah, like ways to interact with other people outside my little family unit. Like, so yeah, I would have crazy hours. I think for a whole year, I taught from 4 to 6 a.m. and tried, you know, not having my kids wake up until 6 a.m. And then I also taught my husband to take over after work and take over kid dinner time and bedtime. And I'd be over in the office, you know, teaching my classes, you know, back to back until whenever. So that was another crazy time. And I'm like, how did I do that? Like, I don't know. My kids didn't sleep through the night. I don't know how we did it. But anyway, I survived and, you know, it continued giving me the little bit of side income I needed. And then actually when the au pair came, that was the first year I didn't have a side job. I thought I was going to, but that tutoring company like went under during COVID. Yeah. And so
that's why it stopped.
Yeah, we had, you know, said we were going to have this au pair. We signed the contract. She was arriving. I wasn't going to back out. I wanted the help. I was super pregnant. I was like, 4 kids. What are we going to do? And so we just budgeted that year. We're able to still have the au pair. And I didn't work, but how I mentioned earlier, I was at the co-op preschool.
Yeah.
With a lot more working days and things like that. And so it really helped having that childcare. It was just a great thing to have the capacity to just go do something with 1 or 2 kids and not have to have all 4 come along and sit at a baseball game, you know, or sit in a waiting room of gymnastics class or whatever. So it gave us that flexibility because otherwise I probably would have cut down on a lot of what we were doing because it's hard. I want to ruin nap times, all that kind of stuff. You know, there's certain seasons that
as moms, we, especially like Jen is doing a lot of stuff. So for you, how do you prioritize yourself and in the midst of 4 kids running around, all these schedules you guys do? So Jen just ran a marathon and I'm like, how do you train and run for a marathon? Like how do you actually make that happen?
Yeah, it was hard. I tried doing this training plan to prepare me and I figured out with like November, December, holidays and weekend stuff I didn't want to give up doing. It became very hard to like tell my husband, hey, I'm going to leave on a 3-hour run. You got the kids, right? And so I didn't want to wake up in the dark and run in the dark and things like that. And so I didn't get to train the way I wanted to. But I did it.
Yeah, you did.
I did it, yeah.
But you would have these posts where you're like, I just ran 13 miles. And I was like, I like can barely run like 2 miles.
Yeah.
I was like, also, how do you have time? So James jumped in a lot.
Yeah, he's just very supportive. He's always supported me in the little side endeavors I wanted to do. And so he would step in and watch the kids. We also, thankful to my husband, trained our kids to ride bikes by age 3. And so you might catch me with the 2-year-old still in a stroller, but the other 3 are on 2-wheeler bikes and can go pretty far. I obviously would not take them on a 13-mile run with me. And they never got to go on the ones leading up to the 26-mile marathon, but you know,
That's
it works to
so
do 3 miles
cute.
and so that's helped with my training because I can get out there with all 4 kids and still run without a quadruple stroller. So yeah, I know self-care is important as moms. I don't feel like I do that well, but like I see my mom friends who read novels and keep up on their Bible study homework and get their hair done and nails done and all that kind of stuff. I'm not like a foo-foo girl, whatever that's called. Like, this is the first time I put on a little bit of makeup to be on screen and probably forever. I told my son to go dig in that drawer and find that makeup bag and I'll put a little bit on the drive to Christina's house. So like, I don't wear makeup. My hair is always up in a ponytail. Like, so I'm not super big on self-care, but the way I've noticed myself most healthy in motherhood is when I do find pockets of time for exercise. And that's looked totally different over the years. After one of my pregnancies and births, after waiting the 6 weeks, I did a Beachbody program on the TV, and it was 20 minutes a day, and I had little kids on the floor with me, and it was 100 days in a row, and some days I missed, so I double up, or I didn't finish exactly on the 100th day, but I've been pretty good about finding certain things to, be my focus and the program I want to do, and or choose to train for a marathon and make little small steps toward that. So that's when I felt most healthy mentally. There have been times with every pregnancy where that has not been the case. It wasn't what I would really call like baby blues or full-on postpartum depression. But I feel like at like the 1 year mark kind of every kid, there was like this total change. And, I don't want to get emotional talking about it, but you can put on a really good front, right?
Yeah.
Like people don't really know. And so if you're going through that, like just find one person. I was never, honest with doctors or anything, but having, Bible studies and people to walk alongside you, like it was just really helpful. And I have been through that journey, so now I want to be able to be there for other people. We had one girl in our Bible study who had been through that herself, and she did reach out to me, and I still couldn't even be honest with her and her answer, but I could tell that she knew, and that was just helpful. Like that someone asks well, how are you really, right? If you just say oh yeah, it's great, it's chaotic, but whatever, so I'm just really thankful looking back to that time that, that it's not going to always be that way, and it's just a season, and once you're able to get back on the up again, it can be great. And just if you're feeling stuck, find your next small step. What can you do to get out of that, unstuck feeling? Is it getting out with your baby for a 10-minute loop around your neighborhood street? What can it be? And as I look back to clients that were in that stroller fitness program, that's what they told me. A lot of them are going through things I didn't even know as, their instructor, but just having that community of moms. So whatever that looks like don't do motherhood alone. It was helpful having that preschool community with other, getting close to other parents. Just don't do it alone. Find whatever group it is. If it's a Bible study, if it's you see the same mom at your neighborhood park and you try to go back there the next Tuesday because she was there the Tuesday before, whatever it is, don't let yourself stay stuck for that long or feel alone for that long. So yeah.
I had no idea, Jennifer.
Yeah, she calls me supermom, but there's definitely been times in my motherhood journey that is not the case.
Yeah. Something that is interesting, you were saying, so the time you felt most alone when your friend was reaching out to you, you said it was a year, they were a year.
Yeah, I don't know.
So it wasn't because usually postpartum is newborn.
Yeah, and it wasn't when my breastfeeding journey ended, because I know hormones are crazy weird. Then, because then I got pregnant the next month with the next kid, and so it always kind of hit me. I tried looking back to figure it out, and I can't really super said seasonal depression. I'm well, this one year it was around Christmas time, and I couldn't even decorate my own Christmas tree. I had no, my mom had to do it for me.
Yeah.
But I can't figure out exactly a pattern. But I definitely was not
newborn.
But I think because I had them so close back to back, it's kind of hard to
maybe
tell.
Maybe your body was
because
delayed.
Of that kid or the other kid or the pregnancy or the breast, I don't really know.
And it's so crazy by the time you actually processing, your brain's oh, well,
something new is changing in your body or your life. Yeah.
So, wait a second.
Yeah. It was never I don't know
Yeah.
what postpartum would be like within the first
yeah,
couple months.
yeah.
or
It's
whatever.
usually like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't experience it. I mean, I was like sleep deprived, so I was just like
Yeah, that's all.
mad because I was sleep deprived and cranky all the
Yeah.
time, and I mean a little hormonal, but like actual postpartum depression, I think is typically like within like first 6 months. Usually the first like month, you have this dramatic shift. I liked what you said about like I'm not a frou-frou mom, because I feel like when we talk about self-care, like you're like, yeah, makeup and hair doesn't really, like nails didn't do it for me,
Yeah.
but I like to work out.
Yeah.
And so for you, because you know yourself and you're self-aware, you're like, I need to work out, so I need time so I can work out. Like that's what you've, you know, created
Yeah.
for yourself. Whereas someone else might be like, I want to get my nails done. Like that for me, like, you know, is my life. So I like that you touched on, you know, it's going to be different for different
Yeah.
people, and learning what you actually like, what actually recharges you, not this idea of having my makeup and hair done or whatever that fits into your life. I like that a lot. And I do this too. How you talk about like basically like not asking for help, like just like feeling like I'm gonna be this independent person. I'm just like, I'm capable. It's fine. I can push through. And I feel like you were very much that way.
Yeah.
Because you are like a very strong person. You are very capable. And so I see that in myself too, to where it's so like, I need to learn how to do this. Like being like, hey, can we go for a 10-minute walk or whatever? But it's almost like, I don't know if you feel like this too, but it's almost like even the act of like texting someone to schedule to see if we can go on, like it sounds like that's just too much. Whatever, I'm just gonna sit here and be alone.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've gotten better at that, or is that still kind of like me, something that you're working on as far as like, you
I
know,
feel like
reaching
I've
out?
gotten better. I feel like I've found, I don't know if it's naturally or whatever, through social media, like these parenting pages that I've followed.
Like Facebook?
Yeah, or like Instagram accounts that I
Okay.
follow of different child psychologists or things like that. Like, I don't know, one's called like Big Little Feelings, like things like that. And they all have like programs you can buy, which I probably should have invested in and never did. So I just take the little freebies they give. But I feel like I wish I would have had that same thing when I had my firstborn and secondborn, because it's helped me, I don't know, like redo the way I parent a little bit, and, you know, obviously give yourself grace, but have these like new strategies in your back pocket that can be helpful. One of the accounts talks about DFKs, and she identifies those as deeply feeling kids. And I totally feel like my firstborn is that.
Really?
Yeah, where like they're the ones that are like identified as, you know, the poor behavior or the high emotion, like that kind of stuff. And so it's funny, like you see those memes go around of like, oh, the firstborn is like so easy, and then your secondborn comes along and is wild and throws your motherhood for a loop, and how do you parent the second child that's so different than my first, who was just calm and easygoing? Well, that was not my experience. Our first was the one that was challenging to learn how to parent. And then because we had kids so close together, I feel like everybody followed his personality, right? And was like big brother, so it was super chaotic. And, you know, it became hard to feel like, well, how do we take our chaos into other situations? Like, who's going to want to invite us over for a play date when I got to bring 4 kids? You know, who's going to go on a dinner date with the kids when we have so many? Just things like that. And if you feel judged by your family showing up places, that's not the place for you. So, you know, find the community where it is great. We were in a Bible study together, and it was like, if someone just had a baby, someone else was pregnant. And it went on for like 3 years or something. There was always someone having the next baby.
Yeah, there was like a newborn at our Bible study, like pretty much constantly, I think.
Right,
Yeah.
so you felt fine bringing your newborn along. And we left the older ones, you know, at home with the babysitter. But, you know, if you have 4 kids, find a few other families you know that have 4 kids and glean from them how they do things. And they're probably going to be fine that you show up with 4 kids, and you're probably going to be fine to invite them over with 4 kids. So, you know, whatever stage you're in, like find somebody similar in that stage, and then, you know, you can glean from them. And not just your own stage. I've appreciated like groups I've been in where there's parents of kids older and younger. Like, you know, yes, we can talk about, you know, our 2-year-old's potty training, but maybe we have no idea what it's going to be like picking a kindergarten or whether we want to homeschool or go to a charter school or public school. And so like having friends you can rely on in different stages, or like I have no idea what the teenage years are going to be like that is scary in its own. So like you might feel like, oh my gosh, the newborn stage is so hard, and it's, you know, people say it's going to get easier. I'm not going to say that. Like each stage is going to have its own difficulties, but your skills as a parent are going to grow as you parent for longer.
Thank you so much for being like so honest and so vulnerable, and just telling us about your mom life. Like I always love hearing about other moms and how they do things, and I know our moms out here just there's many stories that we can glean, everything that we can learn from moms and stuff. But are there any other like tips, tricks, any closing thoughts, anything else, advice you want to pass on to?
Yeah, so I thought of one other thing. My little last bit of like being in a funk is what I call it. I don't think it was ever like full on depression, but this last one was probably maybe the worst of them all. Was maybe this, I think it was the start of 2023 until like kids went back to school. So kind of like half the year. And I think one of the things that did get me out of that was finding Bible studies that included childcare. So I made space in my schedule to like go to a Wednesday group, and I can have my 2 and 4-year-old in a room and they're learning too, and I get that little bit of alone time. You know, they're free or they're super affordable. I also found, probably because I make myself too busy, a Thursday group. But the Wednesday one is a study with like a table of grandmas. And it's great.
It's so cute.
You know, it's like a different community than me being with people that have young kids. And so that's been great to be with them. And then the Thursday one is more of like what you'd call a mom group. And that's been great. I just have my 2-year-old with me that day, so he goes to the childcare. And it's in the stage we're in now, it's kind of been special that you get these little pockets of time with like not all 4 kids. I know that's advice that's given on these parenting pages, like take your kids out one-on-one, take them out on special dates. That really hasn't been the capacity we've had as parents to be able to do that. Maybe once in a while, but not on any regular basis. So it's kind of a fun stage, like, oh, I just have one with me and I can grocery shop with just this one while some are in their activities or whatever. So that's really helped me. I also found a yoga studio to go to that has had childcare at it. So that was another great way to be able to make some self-care time for yourself. And then most recently, my next new little side adventure.
Is this like blowing your mind? Like everything that she is capable of? Like it blows my mind.
Yeah, I went through yoga teacher training. So that's another, I've always wanted to do things that can pour into the lives of young moms, which is why I did that stroller fitness thing. I have a teaching background, so either like kids or young moms, like that's my jam. And so I don't know where this yoga teacher thing will take me, but with the little bit of fitness background I had, I was like, maybe this is the next cool thing for my life and stage of life right now. So I don't know if that'll turn into teaching kid yoga classes or, you know, free community classes for moms. I remember that, I don't even remember which kid it was after having birth, but this lady was offering free yoga classes in the park, and the park was like walkable from my house. And I'd ask my husband, like, hey, can you stay home with the 2 kids? Can I go to this, you know, hour yoga class in the park? And it was such like a needed thing, like just to get out of the house for 1 hour. So I'm hoping to be able to pour back and do something with yoga with moms.
Cool.
And yeah, we'll see where that takes me.
That's exciting. That's a new venture.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jen. Thank you for talking with me and pouring into the moms in our community. And one last thing before you go. If no one has told you yet today, you are doing a good job. Thank you guys, and we'll catch you next time on Mom Babes. Thank you. And to like actually be able to coordinate your schedule enough to where you can actually like, because usually I'm like editing at odd hours, filming at odd hours, and I'm like, it's fun.
Midnight.
Yeah, except they're like, no.